So I got these military surplus boots as an extra pair of hiking boots. They're in really good shape for the price and they're extremely comfortable. Just going to wash them up with some saddle soap. So the way I do it is, so you got to have a just a little bucket of water, and then have some of these shop cloths. You know, they're not made out of just paper. There's cotton or something in those. So you have that, and you get your saddle soap. Doesn't matter what brand you use. I've used different brands. So first thing I always do, and this is not the way they say to do it, is get some of that on there, because you're going to be lathering this up, and it's a lot easier to lather it up when it's on the boot. So just put a little bit all over the boot like that. I'll be back in a second when that's done. Alright, so that's done. Basically you're just going to give this a good soak and go over the boot and get it nice and lathered up like that. Hard for me to do with only two hands here to show you, but you know, keep going back for some water and get it nice and lathered up. Don't be afraid to get it wet, and just go over the whole boot like this. Get all that saddle soap lathered up and everything washed off. And then once you got it all done, just hose it down. Just, you know, be careful not to get it too wet inside the boot, and go over it and hose that stuff all off there just very lightly like this. Alright, now just let them dry off. There's one I had done earlier and it's almost dry now. It's almost ready to treat with the next step, which I'll show you as well. This guy's the one I just did, and he's just drying off. Alright, now we're ready to do the final treatment on the boot. Normally I use Snow Seal, but I've been having trouble locating it actually. It's primarily beeswax and carnauba, or however you pronounce that. I did find the local trailhead has this stuff, which is basically the same thing. This is made in Germany. Basically the same composition as Snow Seal. So what you have to do is you have to heat the boot up. I've got a heat gun here. You can use a hair dryer. I have it on my foot because that is an easy way for me to tell whether or not I'm applying too much heat. But basically you heat up the area where you want to apply the wax to, and then you apply it. I wipe it on by hand and then rub it in with just the same shop towel. So let's have a look at how that works. Incidentally, I have the heat gun on low and it provides quite adequate heat. If it were on high, it would be way too much heat. Alright, so I'll just get a bit of this, and now when I'm pushing on that, I can feel the heat on my foot. It's pushing that boot into my, and basically just go over the surface, apply it all to the whole surface of the boot in a similar fashion, and after you wipe it on, you wipe the excess off. Wipe off the excess with your cloth like this, and just go over the whole boot in a similar fashion. So you can see they use shoe polish on these, obviously. So I'm just going to go over the whole boot like that. And another way you can do it, actually, with a cool boot, you can just apply your wax first. Now I've already completed this boot, but I wanted to show you this. So this may not soak in as well, especially in spots where you want, so you can see the seam is here and it goes, this piece is over top of that piece, so I want wax to get into the seam this way and all along the seam down here where the boot meets the heel. So you can put the wax on first, and then you watch here, you hit it with the heat gun, Now this is already fully saturated, but this works really well. Is you put a real thin coat on first, and then hit it with a heat gun, and then you go ahead and you can see there now it's soaking in. It's actually still soaking in somewhat. So that, and then the same deal, you wipe off the excess with your shop rag. So on these boots in particular, I noticed both boots, they're surplus, and both boots on the inside, they have one little spot where it's just starting to come apart, and so I put lots of wax in there and hit it with the heat gun to fill that up, so that will help prevent that from leaking. Oh, and a couple of more things. So how much of this do you use? That's 100 milliliters. You can see I've used about a third of it on 2 boots, doing them completely. Also, how often do you have to do this? Depends on how much you use the boots, but 2 or 3 good solid hiking trips and you want to redo them basically. So for me, I don't get a tremendous amount of hiking in a year, so for me it's basically once a year I do them.